This is Focal Point with Brian Fisher on AFR Talk.
Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Interesting development on the multicultural diversity front. And this has to do with the fact that the Winter Olympics are going to be held in Russia 2014. And Russia has just passed a law that prevents any propagandizing of the homosexual lifestyle. Any public displays of homosexual affection, any gay pride parades. You can be gay, but you can't advertise it. You can't promote it. You can't propagandize that anywhere in public in Russia. Now, here's the problem is, the wrinkle here is the Russian sports minister has said, look, we're going to enforce this law during the Olympics. So you have some Olympic athlete comes to Russia. He is an active homosexual, and he wants to do something to promote his lifestyle. We're going to lock him up. We're going to arrest him. We're going to detain him. We're not going to put up with that in Russia. We have standards against this sort of thing. Now, here's my point. If all of these people in our culture that believed in, if they really believed in multiculturalism, they believed in celebrating diversity. They were all about celebrating the wonder of diverse cultures all over the world. They would be excited about this. They would say, hey, this is great. We've got plenty of room in our multicultural world for all sorts of different cultural values and trends. Isn't this wonderful what Russia's doing? Let's celebrate diversity and let's support this tradition in the nation of Russia. Somehow don't think that is going to happen. Now, you are aware that the Fred Phelps outfit, Westboro Baptist Church, they're the people that actually hate homosexuals and believe that God hates homosexuals. And, of course, it's by far not the only difference between us and them, but that's a night and day difference. We don't hate homosexuals. We love them. We don't want to see them trapped in that dark and dangerous and destructive lifestyle. We love them enough to tell them the truth. We want to warn them of the consequences of that behavior because we care for them. We care for them not only in this life, but in the age to come. And the scriptures are very clear. There's a whole range of sins that will keep you out of the kingdom of heaven. Swindling will, habitual drunkenness will, adultery will, and homosexuality will, unless it is repented of and brought under the blood of Christ. So we care about people's eternal souls. It's the only way we get in. We're all guilty of some of the sins on that list. We would have no right to have a place in the eternal kingdom were it not for the forgiveness of Jesus Christ. So we're not speaking out of self-righteousness. We're not speaking out of a sense of moral superiority. We are, as the guy said, we're just one beggar telling another beggar where to find bread. But we know where you find bread, and we know what the bread that came down from heaven is and how you can gain access to that source of spiritual nutrition. So we love people enough to tell them the truth. Now, the Fred Phelps group, they believe God hates gays, and they advertise that. God hates homosexuals. I won't even use the word they use to describe homosexuals. And I've mentioned this before, but Fred Phelps group, they actually picketed my church back in the day because they thought I was too gay friendly, if you can believe that. So they even picketed me. Now, but they've gained their notoriety by picketing funerals, particularly of celebrities and returning soldiers. They'll picket them and have their signs about how God hates homosexuals and the death of this soldier is a judgment on God for its homosexuality and all that. Well, you know who else is picketing funerals and had to get slapped down by a judge? You know who else is doing exactly the same thing that Fred Phelps and his group of cranks is doing at funerals, who's protesting these funerals, disrupting these funerals, interfering with grieving families as they process the death of a loved one? It's the Teamsters Union. It's the union that's doing this. Here's a story, Fox News from today. A judge ordered one of Chicago's most politically powerful labor unions to suspend picketing against 16 funeral homes last week after receiving reports that striking Teamsters had, among other things, disturbed a child's funeral. So you've got some striking funeral directors and hearse drivers that are on strike. They're a part of Teamsters Local 727, and they've been harassing grieving families. The company that testified in its filing that union members blocked grieving family members from leaving its parking lot, used bullhorns to shout obscenities at workers and mourners. And I don't even know if the Phelps group does that. I think they're mostly silent. I think they just kind of hold their signs. But to my knowledge, they don't jeer and all that kind of thing. Maybe they do, and I'm just not aware of that. But they certainly don't use bullhorns to interfere with the funerals. And the union unleashed a German Shepherd on a dead woman's daughter and her husband. They allegedly disrupted a child's funeral with laughter. So there you have the Teamsters Union, Westboro Baptist Church walking hand in glove. Now, let's go to clip one here. President Obama's been out there saying, look, all these scandals, the Republicans are just trying to distract you with scandals, and they're phony scandals. There's nothing to them. And so a reporter, Mark Knoller from CBS News, says, all right, Jay, in his speech, President Obama mentioned the phony scandals that are a part of an endless parade of distractions. Can you tell us what phony scandals he's talking about? Here was his answer.
I think we all remember a few weeks ago when Washington was consumed with a variety of issues that, while in some cases significant, there was an effort underway to turn them into partisan scandals. I don't think anybody here would doubt that. And what we've seen as time has passed and more facts have become known, whether it's about the attacks in Benghazi and the talking points, or revelations about conduct at the IRS, that attempts to turn this into a scandal have failed.
Okay, so Jay Carney says, look, there's two phony scandals out there. There is Benghazi. That's an entirely phony scandal. Nothing to it. It's all made up. It's all fabricated. There's nothing there to see. Move along. And the IRS, that's a phony scandal. That's totally bogus. And, you think about this. Start with the IRS, because I got a soundbite I'm going to play to follow up on Jay Carney. That's number two, Rob. Think about the IRS scandal. We discovered that there were 298 groups that were targeted for scrutiny by the IRS. 292 of them were conservative. 6 of them were liberal or progressive. So the IRS, there's no doubt about it now. There isn't any confusion about this. There's no mistaking it. That's 92% or something like that of all the groups they targeted for harassment and scrutiny were conservative groups. And we've seen this week that the IRS even went after some conservative groups that already had their tax-exempt status. They'd already been granted their tax-exempt status. These other 292 conservative groups were applying for tax-exempt status, and the IRS hassled them and delayed and prolonged the process until after the 2012 election. They basically stole the election. The IRS stole the election for Barack Obama by preventing these Tea Party groups from organizing. And then we read this week that the Federal Elections Commission, the FEC, collaborated with the IRS to try to get some dirt on conservative C4 groups, 501c4 groups. And now you got the IRS releasing confidential information against the law to the Federal Elections Commission, all for the purpose of trying to get a conservative activist group in trouble. That's not a phony scandal, ladies and gentlemen. But according to Jay Carney, it is. You think about Benghazi now. We have 4 dead Americans. We've been reading this week that one of the Americans that's in the hospital now, he's still in Walter Reed recovering from his injuries, was on the rooftop where Glenn Doherty and Tyrone, forget his last name, the 2 ex-Navy SEALs that died on the roof. He went up there to try to help them. He was injured, badly injured. His leg was bad. He laid on the top of that roof for 20 hours waiting for somebody to come to his rescue. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton is sleeping in her own bed and ignoring the 3 a.m. phone call, and President Obama is off partying in Las Vegas with Beyonce and Jay-Z. Now, ladies and gentlemen, however you slice it, that is a scandal. Now, what's further makes this a scandal, this is clip number 2. Remember that President Obama told us when this Benghazi thing happened, we are going to track these people down to the ends of the earth. Nobody is going to escape our justice. We will find them. We will spare no expense. We will spare no effort. We will spare no time. We will use all the manpower and resources at our disposal as the mightiest nation on earth. We are going to hunt them down to the end of the earth, and we will see that justice is done. Remember him saying that? And then we discover that a couple of days after the Benghazi attack, one of the main perpetrators was sipping Mai Tais out on the balcony or the patio of a luxury hotel in downtown Benghazi. He wasn't afraid for his life. He's talking openly with people and with journalists. Now, here's CNN. I mean, the FBI has identified the guy that they believe is the chief suspect in this Benghazi attack. They know who he is. They've identified him by name. They've got pictures of him up there. And remember, FBI took 3 weeks to get to that compound in Benghazi, that consulate. 3 weeks. They didn't show up to look at the crime scene for 3 solid weeks. Now they've identified the guy, but apparently they can't find him. But we find out in this soundbite that CNN, criminally, CNN can find somebody that the FBI can't. Let's listen.
It is interesting. The FBI has put some photos up on its website of people of interest, but they haven't arrested anybody. And I'll tell you this, we've been working on a project here at CNN for a special due out later within a week or two. And Arwa Damon, our great correspondent, went back to Benghazi. She sat down with one of the people the FBI says is a lead suspect for 2 hours. He says he's never been contacted by the Libyan government, never been contacted by the FBI. So that is why you have this exasperation among some leading Republicans in the Congress.
And some exasperation in the listening audience of Focal Point on AFR Talk. Can you believe this? This is CNN. They send a reporter over there following up on information they had about this prime suspect. FBI has identified him. They've got his picture up on their website. She went and found him, or a he. I don't know if it's, it's a she, Arwa Damon. She went down and found him, sat down and interviewed him for 2 solid hours. And he says, look, the Libyan government has never contacted me. The FBI has never contacted me. My picture might be up on their website. They might have identified me as the main suspect, but here I am, and they've never even made an effort to get hold of me or contact me. And so I ask you, what about either of those scandals is phony? They sound like the real, full-blown, genuine scandal deal to me. Focal Point, AFR Talk.